Good evening. Welcome to the Open Spaces meeting. Apologies for absence and reasons given, please.
Apologies have been received from Councillor Carol Benyon due to illness. Proposal, please. Thank you. Second, was that useful?
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's just going to be the same people.
Yeah.
So minutes to the previous meeting, to agree the notes of the meetings of the 19th of October 2021 as minuted, please. Is everybody okay with them? Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Declarations of interest. To receive any declarations of interest in accordance with the requirements of the Localism Act 2011 and to consider any request for dispensations in respect of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest in agendaed items. Has anybody got anything? Stephen?
Myself on item 2021-2104 allotments B.
Okay.
Same again.
Yeah. Okay, we can also add, if you come across something as we're going along, please say. Okay? Right, clerk's report, please.
Okay, so we've started a new row at Hallgate and we left a space, a free space so that we could change around the order as previously agreed. We checked into the memorial bench there and it is in the incorrect space.
Okay.
It should be moved to the other side.
Is that the reserved part then?
We had a complaint from a lady whose father encountered a bench by his wife's grave in Park Road covered in empty beer cans and chip wrappers.
Was that his bench or is it the bench that's been moved?
Their bench.
Their bench,
But there's also another one where a bench had been removed and put somewhere else in the cemetery. As everybody knows, we've had problems with chains and locks being vandalised in Carter's Park during open hours. The police are aware, and Councillor Hutchinson and I met with the PCSO this afternoon and we had a discussion about that. And also about the problems with drug use and antisocial behaviour that's going on in both Park Road Cemetery and Carter's Park. Councillor Hutchinson and I met at Holbridge Bank last Friday regarding the issue with one of the boundaries. And just to say, the Parks team are now working from 8 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon as they've moved into winter hours.
The issue of the bench being the wrong side, are we going to write to the family?
Well, you have an agenda item, I need to discuss benches. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Item 100 to elect a vice chair of the committee we cannot do this evening because we're all chairs of something.
I'm not chair of the committee.
Aren't you?
I'm chair of the council,
chair
not
of
the
the council.
committee.
So, do you want to defer this till we're all,
Do you want to be vice chair of this?
or would you like to be vice chair?
If we need one, I will. Happily, yeah.
It's entirely up to you. I don't really want you to make too many decisions at the moment.
Oh, I'm champing at the bit.
Okay. As long as you-
Open spaces, to me, open spaces is the biggest area.
It is the big
And if I can
thing.
help by taking a meeting if you can't, and much as a team player as everybody else, so
Yeah.
I'm quite happy.
Fantastic, thank you.
Second?
Yes, yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Right, Parks Park update. To agree to recommend to full council the purchase of a handrail for the slope at the pavilion. Why do we have to take this to full council?
Because of the spend.
Okay. Is it going to be that much?
I haven't looked into a cost at the moment.
Okay. So are we agreeing to put a handrail up?
As far as I understand it, it's a health and safety requirement, isn't it? So yes, we do need to look at it and we need to get some pricing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we look into the pricing, and if it's within our remit, we can just agree in committee.
That's what I'm thinking.
We don't need an agenda item on full council for something we can approve if it's, yeah.
So could you get some pricing for us, please, Jack? Yeah.
All three of us. We're all fighting for it tonight.
We'll just stick around. Okay, thank you. To agree the opening of the park over Christmas shutdown. So we've got the new hours, we've seen them.
Have you seen the document I did?
Yeah, I did. I've seen it, yeah. So is everybody in agreement with this?
Obvious question. Obviously quite happy with that because of the Christmas breaks. We've got that the park will be open as normal. I understand that will be closed as normal as well.
Oh, sorry, yes, it's only opening issues because the locking up service covers 365 days a year.
So this is just, okay, yeah, okay, then I'm happy with that, yeah.
Yeah.
My misunderstanding, sorry.
Yeah, I did put closing on the top.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, that's all right.
To agree?
Propose it.
Second.
Oh, all agreed.
Yeah.
Okay. To discuss the should be disease, isn't it? Tree in the dog room? Or deceased?
Yeah.
It will be. But this is one what cropped up before. I thought it was going out to tender.
No, we spoke to Councillor Sophie Hutchinson and I spoke to a tree surgeon who we asked to come and have a look at it, who said that the disease is so minimal it would take years before it was a problem, so just to sit
Monitor.
tight and monitor.
Okay, so obviously none of us are tree experts, so we get someone in to monitor it once a year. What do we think?
I think when we do our update our tree report, it can just be included in there as a specific item. And then if the park's team keep an eye on it, if it looks like it's, then we can act quicker.
Okay, so are we all in agreement? If I propose in a second, please? Yep, there you go, take your pick. Discuss, that's good then. Right, to discuss the recommendation to full council to give permission to Councillor Tracy Carter for the use of Carter's Park over the weekend of 2nd and 3rd of July 2022, subject to confirmation of the nature of the event and the receipt of all event notification forms. So, okay.
I have no issue with people using the park, but until we know what the event is, we can't really say whether we give permission for it, because it may be something that we either can't have in the park or we don't feel it's appropriate in the park. We don't know what it's not giving us any detail.
Can
we
we,
like more detail before we actually give permissions?
can we save the date?
Yeah, we
That
can
sort of thing?
provisionally save the date,
Yeah.
but we do need
Until we get
detail.
more info. And see what comes up. If we can just pencil.
But I suggest that we we request that from Councillor Carter to say that the committee will pencil it in, but more details are required before we'll ask full council's permission, so that we can be crystal clear and transparent on what's happening,
Yeah, right.
as opposed to going in and just saying blah blah.
Yeah.
And it will probably have the transition of information.
Okay with that? Yeah. Right, to discuss and agree to close parts about toilet following a recent spate of vandalism. Stephen?
Yeah, I think that we've got to a level now where it's unacceptable for our members of staff to be clearing up those kind of issues. I think until we've got some kind of action plan with the local policing teams or things are under control, that they remain closed for their protection.
Yeah, most definitely, because it's not odd times now, it's very regular.
Can I just ask that we also keep an update as to whether we get any complaints from the public about the fact that they are closed, because that's important as well.
Yeah.
So far, I don't think there's been anything been said by any member of the public about the situation with the toilets at all, but it's something that we do need to monitor.
Yeah. You happy with that?
How is that?
Yeah. All agreed. Right, Leverfield's update. To agree to end grass cutting by the contract at all sites as of the end of November 2021.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no need for any more grass cutting after the end of this month.
No.
At all.
Second.
One thing I will add though, we do notice it's obviously getting a little bit long, or we have problems that our staff could pick up the slack, like we've always done. So, yeah, brilliant. To agree the position of Galahad.
Put it where it's supposed to go. Haze it. The
There
holes are
was,
there.
there was a different site originally looked at and bits.
Bit of background, when myself and the former chair of open space, parks as it was then, we met with park staff down there originally to look at the siting of all of the pieces of equipment, and it was decided at that point not to put that particular piece of equipment close to the boundary because of issues that have happened in the past where children have climbed up on stuff and then either thrown things over people's boundaries or shouted abuse or whatever. It's not a particularly high piece of equipment, but it has got some height to it. So that was why it was decided not to put it near any boundary. So site B, even if you pulled it in a little bit, there's still the temptation. So site A is preferable, but as the football pitch is going to be reduced, I actually would move it slightly further the other way towards the football pitch so that everything's not crammed together, because they have positioned everything really quite close together. So the children haven't actually got a lot of scope to run between. So for me, I would just slightly tweak it and bring it back towards where the goalpost is, because that's going to be moved eventually.
Yeah, I mean, I know we talked
You
about
talking about here?
Yeah.
yeah, further along there. I mean, I don't want to go too close to the pitch because obviously.
No, absolutely not. Not close, but just tweak it a little bit so it's not so close to the other.
My only
pieces of
concern
equipment.
was coming further that way where it was already looked at was people viewing the children parked up in cars and not actually in the playing field, because it's a very clear view there. I had this the other day in Carts Park where I see someone taking pictures, which I wasn't very comfortable with. And they were in Tesco's car park. But when they see me looking, poof, gone. And I don't like that sort of scenario when it's too open and looking at play equipment. So that was what was in my mind.
Yeah. Fair comment.
Can I talk again? I'll just about the
Yes,
same point. Fair point. I think when something's at height and people are climbing up and you can also see over a boundary, that's going to affect people. as the groundwork's been done as a compromise, can we not stick with point A and get on with it and get it installed as
Well,
opposed to moving?
The groundwork what's been done is just a couple of holes stuff. Nothing actually concreted or...
Okay, I thought that.
It's just a couple of markers
Yeah.
to say we're... You know,
I mean, we can tweak it slightly. I mean, we can just try and position it so there isn't such a direct view.
Yeah.
But the slide it can't face south.
Yeah.
So we have got to
Explain
think
this
about
way,
that as well. So it's got to face the right way round.
Yeah.
Have to face the hedge.
Yeah.
So if it's moved slightly over, there's the trees that's going to block its view from that front and also there, and it can, like you say, it can then travel towards the boundary as such, can't it? So
It was very difficult to stand there and picture something when you're only looking at a flat.
Yeah.
It'd be better to see the actual bit of kit.
Yeah. It's not massive. It's
No,
not a huge
it looks
piece of
flat.
equipment. But it just needs, we just need to think
It's a metre and a
about
half high,
it.
isn't
Yeah.
it, platform?
Yeah, about that, which, you know, okay, people's hedging is higher than that, but you get older children utilising it, which you can't stop. You could end up with an issue and then we're going to get complaints
Oh,
and
yeah.
then we're going to end up having to take the whole lot out again,
Which we don't want.
which we don't want to
No.
do. So I'd much rather put it into a position whereby it is away from somebody's boundary and then deal with the other issue if we have to, either by putting some form of screening or whatever, if that's what we need to do, rather than cause something that may escalate
Yeah.
into something quite significant.
I'm happy with that.
So if I put place at A, but closer to football goals with the slide facing north.
So if you're going like further, where the gate entrance is, so just moving it along a bit.
Yeah, so
Moving
it's
it
just
this
sort of
way,
coming
Rachel.
slightly,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So about here. Oh, you were trying to look.
So I was thinking about obviously the grass cutting scenario as
yeah,
well.
well, that's the other thing, you don't want everything, because they have put them quite close together, and we don't want grass cutters to have to do everything by strimming.
Yeah.
It's much easier if they can go in and out with the machinery, so it's about allowing enough space around everything
So a little bit
for
further
everybody.
up from the A position.
Yeah,
This way.
Yeah.
Southeast of A, isn't it?
yeah.
Super.
So place at A but closer to goals with side facing north, make it easier for grass cutting. Proposal please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, cemeteries update. To agree to leave a 60cm gap between the back-to-back headstones at Hallgate Cemetery. So this is when we had a little wonder, wasn't it? Obviously repositioning and the new road, we were looking at the best way of doing it and obviously discovered some new sizing as well. So 60 centimetres is enough for the lawnmower to go down and keep it nice and tidy. And obviously be respectful for people visiting their own graves. So, can we agree?
Yeah, happy with that.
Yeah?
I'll propose it.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. To agree the process for the fallen cedar tree in Park Road Cemetery. So, the process, the chaps put something forward how they think they can do it.
There have been discussions, but they haven't come up with an absolute plan. They do think that they can deal with it, but they haven't come up with a proper.
They can't really agree a process.
No,
can
not really.
they? No.
To be fair, I think it's something that we do need to get them to
We need
sort
to
out
formulate
properly.
the plan,
Yeah.
yeah. So when we have, or next staff meeting
Tomorrow.
to formulate a plan.
So if we defer that on to next meeting.
Yes, please. Okay. To agree to...
Just on a proposal.
Oh, yeah. Here you go. Seconded? Yeah. All agreed. There you go. Sorry, Sue. I knew you would. To agree to stream between the headstones in Park Road Cemetery. Right, this is a new one on me, because there isn't that much left between the headstones in Park Road Cemetery.
We've finished.
Mm-hmm.
So the parks team say that they can quite easily cope with trimming between the headstones. The issue in the past has been that if the grass is wet, the grass that they've trimmed sticks to the headstones and people complain. The parks team say it would take them literally 2 or 3 minutes just to go around with a broom and sweep off, and it would look far nicer than over spraying or
leaving it.
Or leaving it. So
It's no different to them streaming down at Hallgate when it's wet. To do the same, Stephen?
Can we try it?
Mm-hmm.
Give them a go?
Yeah.
And if it looks really super and they can manage that and it just takes that little bit of extra time, I think
Yeah.
it will.
It's worth it.
It'll be a good thing.
I mean, that's what's been happening with the contractor doing it. There's been no spraying in the cemetery since the contractor did the grass cutting, and our park staff currently haven't got a spraying qualification. So until they've been on the spraying qualification, they can't do it anyhow. So we're going to have to strip.
Well,
So I think we just need to monitor it.
I think it's
If it's successful, wouldn't that be a really good idea? Then we're not using chemicals.
fine.
Mhm.
Most
I mean,
definitely.
that's fabulous, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fully
I'll
agree.
propose that.
Second? Yeah. All agreed. Brilliant. Okay, discuss and agree the way forward regarding memorial benches. Well, we've had several agenda items on memorial benches, and it was agreed before that no new benches anywhere, basically, wasn't it? From my memory. We've just got to deal with the ones what we do have at the moment. So regarding the one cited in the wrong place down Hallgate, the family will need to be asked if they could just swap sides, please. And also, well, deal with the ones with Park Road.
Park Road, I think you're going to have slightly more difficulty with. We do need to look at what we're going to do with them long term, because obviously Park Road is filling up. So any that are placed on a reserved plot that is not anything to do with the family is going to be in the way, and it's going to have to move at some point. None of us know when that's going to be. And there has been this spate of antisocial behaviour down that end, where the group of youth gather on quite a regular basis to have a picnic, rubbish everywhere, have a pee in the corner, and generally make a nuisance of themselves, because it's quiet down there.
So they're doing it quite early now then, because obviously the gates are locking early now.
Well, I haven't seen them recently, but that doesn't mean to say they haven't been there. But there has been rubbish left there, so they clearly are going there and using those benches, which is not pleasant for the family when they come back and find that there's rubbish and everything there. So I think we need to come up with a solution in short term as to where they can be placed, where they're still relatively close to the grave, if at all possible, but where they're probably not in such an area that it's going to attract the. But I don't.
This is where we're
It's
just
going
going
to
to
be
have
very
to
difficult.
liaise with the families
Yeah.
and say, just, they obviously know the problems we're having.
Yeah.
Because they're discovering it when they go and visit. And say for the short time till they've wandered off and got somewhere new to go, we'd like to site the bench somewhere else for now. I don't know.
The only thing I can think is that we can try and arrange a meeting with as many of the families as we can in one go and see if we can come up with a solution. Because there are not that many benches down
No,
there.
there isn't many left, is there?
But it would be better if we could sort of group them or put them somewhere whereby they can still see their loved one's grave, if at all possible, but so that it's probably slightly more in view in general. So if it's closer to a pathway, they're less likely to sit and gather there than they are if it's tucked away in a nice little corner. But it will be a more tricky one, I think.
Yeah, most definitely. So shall we compile a letter to sort out a meeting and discussion?
That would be the first option, I think.
I did notice the bench was missing from under the tree. The lawn tennis memorial bench has gone. That was near the old trailers under the tree. That has disappeared. So I couldn't find it anyway. So I wonder if people could ask the guys if they've moved it somewhere.
Can you explain where it is?
You know where the two trailers were under the tree?
Just as you're going
Yeah.
over there?
There was a bench there.
Don't know whether it is one of them, but there were a couple, 2 or 3 benches in the chapel, weren't there, when we met the contractor there, if you remember.
Very well.
This is very recently it's been moved.
Right, don't know. Wouldn't like to say.
No. And it's quite a hefty bench to shift about. Okay, thank you very much. So we're all happy with that? That's the only thing I think we can do for the time being. Right. To discuss and agree a way forward regarding the overhanging trees from Park Road Cemetery. You've seen the photographs? Stephen?
Yeah, I looked at those sort of in great detail. We did agree when this came up on an agenda for the nature reserve about overhanging branches and a policy, which I think we should still enforce, that we will deal with dangerous branches that are touching or dangerous, and anything that's overhanging, you know, people can cut them off and retain the wood as we agreed at the nature reserve. The unattendance of privet hedging and things that should have been cut, my personal view is that we should be keeping at least the top trim, and you know, we don't want holes and things making in them, you know, cutting back harsh, but they just need tidying up so that they're not an eyesore. So you've got somebody that's lovingly cut their bit, and then instead of sort of cutting the top, they've sort of left it, and it's obviously really bushy our side. They just need a real good tidy, which the parks team I think should do, but the overhanging branch policy should apply to all areas.
This one is actually touching, isn't it?
So that one's got to be addressed then, hasn't it?
We can't. I don't personally feel that we can have one policy for one area and then a different policy for another. It is a concern, but you know, we don't want to be taking out trees, especially with our, you know, looking at the environment and our bit to reduce carbon. Trees need to be maintained, but as I said, the policy was agreed.
So we need to address the branch going over, obviously, the outbuilding, is it?
Mm-hmm.
So is that something? Oh, they can't do that yet, can they? They
Yeah.
can.
So have, yeah, we've already had discussion, they were at the meeting to have a look to see what they could,
And they're comfortable.
are they comfortable with dealing with that?
Okay, that's good.
So we
So
can put that into the work schedule for them to
Yeah. okay, brilliant.
And the same with it, I mean, hedging and everything is all part of what's already in the work schedule, but we can prioritise that
Yeah.
above.
I think if they just give it cut it, not tight back, because that's where you get holes this time here, but just real neat and finish it off, because there's one obviously that loving
Well, we've
just
got,
outside.
3 months to get the hedge cut. We've got a nice little window to get that in.
Yeah,
So,
and I think there was our side of the hedge showing a tree overhang, which I think is the last picture, and it's sort of,
That's the property with the hedge, not the property with the tree.
yeah. So again, another example, if it's cut and then they're dealing with the overhang, then the issue's gone, isn't it?
That's not our tree.
Oh,
That's,
It's theirs.
it's somebody else's, so
Oh, that's somebody else's garden.
this
is it?
property wants the hedge cutting back,
Yeah.
but they've actually got a tree that is coming this far onto the cemetery.
Which is going to be impossible for us to cut that part of the hedge without the tree being addressed to it then, isn't it? So it's the same, you know, if we're happy to do one thing, they should be happy to do the other. So I'll still stand by the policy.
We can reply to them saying that we're going to do the tree, so that they're kept in the loop. And also mention, well, if we're going to do the hedges,
Yeah, you need to do the tree.
yeah,
Mm.
for
It
example.
works both ways,
Yeah.
yeah. Precisely, but lovely, no, thank you for that.
Okay.
All of us, all second and we'll all agree, yeah.
Okay. Something I thought about for quite a while, because of some of the issues we've had down at Park Road and bits and pieces, is to discuss and agree a children's cemetery within Hallgate. I've given this a lot of thought and looked at quite a few children's cemeteries over the last few years. I think it's a great idea to have, but while we don't lock Hallgate, I think we could have an issue. I really would like one down there, but because of the nature of the things that tend to be left at children's graves, it's a bit of a temptation with the problems we've got at the minute. Sorry, Steve.
I understand the concept because I've seen them on various areas, but usually different continents and things. Most people that lose a beloved one, they tend to book plots to be with their, their members of their family. I don't see how having a children's cemetery, if that's how I'm understanding you, would work when mum and dad and want.
It's surprising how many don't.
Yeah, I just, it's just, to me that feels a little bit weird.
But everybody does.
But it's going to at this point in time for me. But it's like when people, I understand what you're saying, and they want to put things on there and things like that. I totally get that. But if you've got a child's plot and then mum and dad are reserving their plots and things like that without new policy, that's 99 years. You're going to have sort of gaps, then another one and gaps, and then another one and gaps. Whereas at the minute we're sort of quite strategic in how we're doing it. I don't quite see how it would work in Hallgate unless you put it the other side.
The children's area tends to be their own area, and the area I was briefly looking at was behind the bearer. The coffin bearer?
Yeah.
There's an area behind there, you've got a bit of box hedging, and there's a nice little square which is quite discreet, and people can be where they want to be.
But that's just my view on it. I just think
It's
it's
just-
a little bit, I don't know how that concept would work.
I mean, I'm quite happy to defer, because the more I think about it, and obviously with the more the antisocial behaviour we've been getting regularly, it concerns me. Especially knowing that we can't lock Hallgate. So it'd be a nice idea to have something, but I just more I think about it, I don't know if it's feasible.
It might be better to think about a memorial area as opposed to,
Yeah, we've got the wall.
because at the end of the day, I just think that that's quite a strange concept.
Yeah.
Whereas if you had a more of a memorial where they could put these tributes and things, they would obviously have less areas and a dedicated area too, like they used to for the babies and things.
Which
but-
would still be difficult in Hallgate with it being open.
Mm.
That's the thing.
Has anyone ever actually requested it? It just seems odd.
No, but I mean, I look at different cemeteries.
Mm.
It's just.
So it's your. So I get the concept, but I just don't see it working
No,
myself.
I'm confused.
I think it's something to keep in mind, and should we get people requesting that idea, or there is public opinion that they would like to see that, I think is something that we should keep in mind. I'm of the mind, the same as Stephen, most people that I know that lose a child then immediately book their plot next to where the child is buried because they want to be with their child. That's my personal experience. That's how I know people have reacted when they've lost a child, but that's not everybody. And there may be people that want to do something completely different.
I think it's a good call, but it's...
And it may be, again, maybe we do look at, instead of having a separate burial area, you have a memorial area whereby they can put whatever they want, because on the actual grave spaces, it is more restricted, isn't it?
And this is where
But
we
if
have
you've
problems.
got an area that
Yeah.
isn't restricted and they could have the memorials in whatever manner they wanted to, with a plaque, maybe, that might be something to look at.
Okay, thank
Keep
you.
those ideas coming.
I can't have the pet cemetery. Right.
Could I have a proposal to defer then, please?
I mean, it's not being deferred to the next meeting. It's something I just wanted to discuss and get other people's ideas from, so I don't know how you...
Can we agree that you can continue to discuss it with yourself and then come back to us when you're ready?
nice one.
Thank you.
Do that regularly.
Could I have a proposal to continue? Thank you.
And that takes it off the agenda.
Keep
Not,
talking to
not
myself. like you
from,
said.
yeah, not because I think there is a concept now, I just think it's the...
I think it's
Needs a
about
bit
time
more
we
research.
started looking at, I mean, there's so many different cemeteries and concepts to cemeteries. We don't. So it's just something there. Thank you. Right, to agree to reduce the size of the memorial garden in Holgate Cemetery.
Is this the rose bed?
Yes, it is.
Yes, I'll propose that.
Thank you. What we looked at was putting some turf around it, or well, grass seeding, to make it a little bit more manageable.
Can I also ask that we look at trying to at least start it off a little bit more, because there's so few roses in there, that at least if you had a bit of a pattern started, then
I thought there was a triangle going on.
Oh, there is, but because it is so massive,
It's hard to
it's
see.
just lost.
Yeah.
And if it still looks lost, I would like to see that we at least start something to make it look a little bit better, so that it encourages people to think, actually, I'd like to put a rose
Yeah,
there. Because as it is, they don't want to, because it doesn't look anything.
No, and we said about changing like the shape and like either diamond sort of thing, formation, or so we can at least bring the size in so we can get the grass cut around it properly. So I'd like to make it small.
Size?
Half it, maybe.
Yeah. Well,
Maybe do it at what it should have been.
that was 8 by 8.
Feet?
Yeah.
Originally. If memory serves me well.
Yeah.
8 foot.
I'll look at the notes out.
Have a second of that, please? You proposed it.
I'll
Ta-da.
second it.
I'm losing track of what
So, what we thought about was just putting some earth on it and grass seed. We've got grass seed anyway, so
I think there's some turf kicking about somewhere.
that's fine.
Done.
It turned into weeds.
Okay.
That's definitely not. Right. Thank you very much. Allotments update. To agree the format of the letter taking back allotments where the rent remains unpaid. Okay, everybody see the letter?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Everybody happy with it?
Yeah.
yeah.
Brilliant.
Proposer?
Yeah.
Second.
Agreed. Thank you. To agree to recommend full council to accept the price for legal advice regarding Battlefield's allotments, to resolve to exclude the press and public under the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960 due to the confidential nature of the business to be transacted. Thank you. Done?
Proposer?
All right.
You need to now, this is a new
Take that
thing,
into being done.
you need to now propose to take that, to reorder the agenda, to move it to the end of the meeting.
I'll move it to the end of the meeting, please.
So you, could I have a proposer, please, to reorder the agenda agenda to move item 104B to the end of the meeting. Thank you.
I'll second.
Please don't expect me to remember that.
We would like to, don't
Thank
we?
you.
That's in the clock and training. That's the answer.
That's it, that's no more training for you. Right, to discuss and agree the increase to allotment rents, because obviously we looked at it and we was discussing sizes and bits and pieces.
You can't work it out by size because it's virtually impossible. Just you can see by, if you calculate these, none of them.
But we're going to do the bigger ones by like quarter of an acre or anything.
I don't know what size it are.
You can't, surely on Google Earth it tells you. There's a measurement thing.
I think if we can work out a rough sizing,
I understand how we don't know what we've got.
well, the problem is that we haven't got all the documentation, and we need to find the documentation, because in any lease it would tell you how much they're actually renting. We can't find everything yet, but we think we might have found where they are, so that's another story. But we need to work that out as to, if we know that they've got 1 1/4 acres, then we can do it per quarter acre, and then you've got a standardised amount that you're going to charge.
Especially for our larger plots, yes.
Yeah.
But you see, on this one, you've got that price for 1 to 5, but that price for number 6. Well,
That's
that
why we
price
need different
times
size.
so many, but there is no documentation that says the size of that plot. And when you come back to this area here, this one, Councillor Hutchinson and I have discovered that none of these plots are the same size.
That area needs completely re-measuring properly and staking, really. That's what it needs. So
Is
that,
it where, like,
because
little
some are
footpaths and
encroaching, yeah, some of them, but some have sort of, because maybe one has been vacant for a while, they've sort of extended slightly, or somebody's put a fence up and they've gone slightly further than they should do. It just needs staking properly. You're not going to regain that land back if it's tenanted at this precise moment, but at least you would know where they should be, and then when it becomes vacant, then you can actually then re-let the correct area. So it's quite a big piece of work, but we do need to look at, I mean, they all need to go up. I mean, as a general rule, the smaller ones, I would at least double.
What, for the garden allotment?
Yeah, I would.
No.
I would. I just think you look at what other people are charging,
Yeah, average is about £38.
but they're quite big plots compared to most garden allotments.
No, I think we double it. We're going to lose a lot of people. And we won't get new people at 50. I'd rather meet halfway.
I'm alright in thinking that we can't increase the allotment rents anyway, just yet.
Till September 2023.
Exactly.
With prices and things and what percentage.
Now,
Well, we're discussing it.
because it seems like we're doing it a bit the wrong way around, that if we get on and stake them, measure them, whatever, then we can then ascertain how much space we've got and say, right, this is what we're going to calculate the rent per whatever, and then we can calculate exactly, due to the measurement, what they actually owe us. So we've got plenty of time, we might as well use it to our advantage. And coming into this back end of the year, if the Parks team can help with that staking out, and we can start doing those measuring, we can bring that calculation in, and then we can accurately charge them and agree what the increase may be, whether it's a meet in the middle or whatever, and then literally it'll go right across the board. So those that have got the bigger plots will have the bigger increases, of course, won't they? the smaller plots.
Yeah, I definitely would like to know the size of our big.
I think in the paper I read through another council, and they said that garden allotment should be kept at minimal cost for the use of parishioners, which was their policy, as in why they provide them in the first place, which I do agree with. But you know, if we are undercharging, we need to bring them in line. But certainly we need to know what the spaces are first, and then we can just do one calculation and it will go across the board.
So the next step is to get it mapped out properly.
I think so, and I do think that it's been talked about in the past by predecessors that had been done, but it's never been done. So we get the job done right.
Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. If we can get it staked out properly and know the sizes of it.
I'm
You're
sorry.
more welcome.
So, could I get a proposal for that, please? Stephen, you agree?
Yeah, completely, yeah.
Okay. To agree the format of letter to send to the allotment holders at Puttersville regarding the rubbish being tipped there. Everybody read the letter?
Yep.
Yep. Stephen?
Yeah, so the letter is quite a generalised letter saying about this rubbish being taken there, and in our opinion that that's what's happening, whatever. It's going to appear a bit harsh to those that are not doing that. Maybe if it was just softened a little bit to say that, you know, we may be aware that this is what's happening. I agree with it, but I just think we don't want to upset too many people by thinking we're blaming them, when it might only be one or two or one or
And I don't
somebody
think we
that
can
hasn't
send,
even got an allotment.
well, I don't think we can send the letter out until we've actually sorted that heap down there.
Well, if we need to send it so that we tell them if we're going to take it away and it reappears, you will get billed for it.
Well,
you know, I do
think
agree with that.
it should be done at the same time as we're clearing the heap, because if not, they're going to say, well, you haven't dealt with that.
Yeah, definitely, because if we take it away and then they get a letter, they're just going to think we're going to take the heap away every time they make one.
But I want it to coincide roughly at the same time as we deal with clearing that area.
Yeah, no, definitely, yeah.
Some of the complaints we've had from people have actually suggested that letter to me.
Yeah, I think it's good, but you know,
You're right.
we don't want to
Yeah.
generalise it
No.
too much. We want to say,
No,
well, we,
a lot of people down there know who's doing it.
yeah, and it's just more of a we're going to get it sorted, but kind of thing, as opposed to pointing a finger. But no, great letter. Thank
Because
you.
we was going to get some prices for the skip, wasn't we? Just get that stuff moved.
Yeah, we know roughly what it is, but then we had a conversation with the Parks team, didn't we? Yeah.
But we still going to need to move it. And where are they going to move it to then?
It's not where they're going to move it to. They will still need a skip and they will need equipment because it really can't be done by hand. It's going to need a mini digger of some sort or something to be able to do it. Not cheaper.
A mini digger.
Well, it needs. I mean, would you want to go down there and manhandle that? We don't know what's in that.
No.
You can't expect our staff to take risks. We have to manage risk.
Yeah.
And if we're asking them to do something that we don't actually know what's in that part, we can see what's on the top, but we don't know what's further down in that part. And to do it by hand, you're putting them at risk.
So we need to,
So it needs to be costed.
so until we've done that, we don't really want the letter going out until we've actually got an actual broad date of when we're going to be actually shifted.
I mean, we can actually do the agenda item and agree the letter with that tweak
Yeah.
to soften it, and then the office can time it in conjunction with the parks team.
If I rejig the letter and then send it to the three of you,
Yeah.
and then you can reapprove.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
I
Lovely.
have a proposal,
To agree, or Nature's Reserve update, to agree to recommend full council the purchase of a new duck machine. Duck food machine, not a duck machine, sorry. We've got enough ducks.
Yeah, so I've had a look at what's been put on the drive. I've had a quick look myself, and I'm reading a very interesting report at the moment about another borough who's installed such thing. If committee agrees, I'd like to take ownership of that and do some work on it myself and come back to you with
Duck machine.
another machine that would do the job at the next committee meeting.
Everybody happy for Stephen to do that? That'd be great, thank you, Stephen.
Welcome. Give me something to do.
Thank you. To discuss and agree the review budget for 22/3. Well, I've got one question. The dyke mowing, why has that been took out?
Because we haven't done it this year.
No, for proposed for next year. Why haven't we done it this year?
It doesn't need doing, somebody's done it.
Well, I would like to make sure we've still got some pennies in there if we need to do it next year.
So are you going to take money from somewhere else?
Dyke maintenance is quite important.
Can I, while everyone's sat there having a little look?
Yeah.
First of all, massive thanks to finance and whoever's been involved in looking at the budget for open spaces. Tremendous job there, so my thanks to those. I can see there is some income coming in from bits and pieces that we do over the year, so I really don't think that the £500 that you're mentioning could be too much of a worry when we actually generate income from other areas, which would cover it in the event that we have to do it. I can quite clearly see that in the income column. This expenditure is the overall running costs, so although it does take into account, you know, those things coming in, we have still got income being generated that might cover the dyke mowing should it be required.
I hope so.
So I don't think it's too much of a, but I just think what a wonderful job that's been done already, bearing in mind what's being covered on here.
Okay, so this isn't the one set in stone, I'll take it.
This will go to full council on the next meeting, and it will be agreed in its draft form, and then once the figures come out from South Holland, it will be that draft one will then be rubber stamped at the January meeting. So yes, what you're putting through now is set in stone. You've really got to peg it right back.
I know that, but I don't want us neglecting things what are important as well.
Isabel, any thoughts?
I think it's fair. We've allowed for improvements, but we've also cut back on some areas that we don't actually need to be spending quite so much on. So I think that it's a fair budget, and I think we should
I think we
move
should.
forward with it.
I think we should.
Okay. That was the only question I had on it.
So you want me to leave it as it is?
Please.
Yeah.
I'll propose it.
So I'm just going to figure. Second. And that's £84,445.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
To agree to adopt the Market Hill planters from the relevant authorities. There's two routes we can do on this. We can either get the licence or adopt fully. Depending on we want to play it.
I personally would want to adopt them because they're never going to look after them.
The lease is the same thing, you just take them over.
Yeah, but
On the licence side.
yeah, ultimately, having been on the council at the time that they did those improvements there was never any intention that they would be maintained by the authority that put them in. That was never the intention. They were just put there as part of the scheme. And yes, we can have a licence, but ultimately, if one fine day they then decide miraculously that they're going to take them away, we can't do anything about it. But if we adopt them, then we can control where and what happens to them. Personally, I think it's such a prominent area of the town. It needs to be right, and I don't want to one day find that they've suddenly come up with some grand scheme whereby they think, oh well, we don't need those there anymore, we'll just remove them, and then you've got 3 large planters that could be put somewhere significant that we will have no say over.
Okay. I was just, for the clarity of the meeting, just to confirm the planters we're talking about, so that people are not confusing them with the railing planters, because when you say planters, people just assume it's a whole of that. We're talking about the 3 big,
three large
three
ones,
large
yeah.
planters.
See, I thought it was Rayland as well.
No.
No,
To me, Market Hill planters is the whole thing.
yeah, that's why I wanted to clarify,
Right.
for the sake of the meeting, we're talking about the 3 large planters. The planters on the railings are a whole different
Yeah, to me that's Market Hill.
authority.
It's just what you're going to do with them, really. I mean, yes, you can adopt the whole lot if that's what you want to do, but you are going to have to be able to maintain them. And the planters on the railings are going to need to be planted regularly, whereas the large planters can be planted and left,
Yeah.
basically.
So the seasonal planters on the railings, the thing is with them, in the past I've dealt with an incident where a lorry clipped one, and we had to get that taken because they bracketed it on, so that had to be taken off. It damaged the railings, which wasn't repaired, and you can them railings. So I would not recommend that the parish council adopt those at all. That we keep to the agendaed item, which is the 3 planters,
Yeah,
the
but
3
to
large
me, that
planters.
just says Market Hill.
Well, I know that, but we're talking about, as a parish council, we don't want to be taking on the responsibility. Then railings, that would be a very expensive repair job, and they're not actually in a good state of repair. But I would, one end's not even attached if you look at it on the railings. I know that because I painted them all myself, and they wasn't repaired when the lorry hit them. But from the agenda item for the 3 large planters that Isabel's talking about, I would strongly
My
suggest that we
concern is
adopt
that we
them.
make them 3 look nice and then we just end up with Duff Rayland then.
Well, my understanding in another meeting is that there's talks about a group forming that.
I hope so, but they're going to be under the guidance of the parish council as well, weren't they? So,
Yeah, for our
loosely,
areas only.
yeah.
For our areas only.
but I can't see the point of adopting one bit and not.
Yeah, well, you've got different.
Yeah.
2 different things there. If you think about the planters are installed after, we're talking about the ones that the authority put in there for the aesthetics.
Yeah, well, they did that all at the same time, didn't
No,
they?
they didn't.
Right.
No.
The planters went on after.
The planters on the railings went in way after those 3 large planters. They were nothing to do with that particular element.
Because they was originally put in by LCC on the
Well, they
road.
probably were, but
Yeah.
certainly not at that time. The-
What
the-
one after?
The mosaic and the three planters, Park Road entrance to the park, and the second entrance to the park opposite the cemetery, that was all done under that scheme, and some street lighting and some work to the paved areas was all done under that funding scheme back in 2005. So the ones on the railings were put in way after.
And they're under licence from highways because they're actually encroaching on the highway. So the licences for those were given by highways because they block the view, and that's why they sit on top of the road so you can see through. And it's quite complicated on those. So going back to the agendaed item, I would say that we should be adopting the three planters that we're referring to, which we've identified, and the town and the railing planters is a completely different agendaed item when it ever hits open spaces, if it does. If the new group that forms do take over those licences, and it's free for them to.
So the group forum was only looking at basically the churchyard and the beacon, weren't
Well, they're areas that are under our jurisdiction, aren't they?
That's the only thing that was spoken about.
Yeah. So you've got to be quite clear in that group meeting, which I couldn't attend, but you know that.
That's
It's
the only thing we talked about.
Yeah, it's not just about doing, you know, it's how far they want to go with it. You know, you need more information from them. That's, as I say, a separate meeting. But
Okay,
for the
so
sake of this one,
to agree to adopt or speak to the relevant authorities about the three planters at Market Hill.
I'll propose.
Okay?
Okay, Rachel?
Yeah. Does that include the ones on the wall? Around the corner, by the notice board?
On the parish board.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be, really, to be honest, because that is sort of...
That's what I'm thinking.
It's their
around,
it's their
yeah. That
area,
side.
really, isn't it?
Okay. Three planters and there's
One,
two on the wall.
Two.
That's where the parish board is.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Good debate. Well done.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
108.
To agree who will attend the finance committee meetings should council prefer to be unavailable. Well, I'm available for the next one.
So
That's
that'll
after that.
that'll be me then.
Yes, please. Sorry.
Proposed,
We agree,
please.
yeah.
Thank you.
So it won't be name, it'll be the vice chair.
Okay.
So whoever is the vice chair will attend if you can't.
Okay, to agree to purchase molds to make concrete picnic benches and tables. I haven't seen these yet, and I'd rather see them before I agree on anything.
Rick sent out something, didn't
Not to me.
I haven't seen anything.
No.
He sent the idea out,
Yeah.
I haven't seen the actual molds.
he? So you see them a lot in other places.
Is it?
I think the idea of concrete seating is brilliant. My concern is that we had thought that we would do them with whatever concrete we've got left over. We have not got any left over by the time we finish the work in Netherfields, so then you're going to have to factor in the cost of buying your concrete. So you need to look at it seriously as to whether it is something that is cost effective or whether you are, whether you are actually throwing money away and you could buy a similar product.
Yeah, I mean, the
I don't
composite benches are good. Was what we were originally thinking about. But expensive, but sorry, Steve.
Trust me. The way I understand it, the moulds are for the end bits, and the bits that you sit on are still wood,
Yeah.
so it's defeating the object.
Yeah, not on some of them. They were all.
The ones I did a quick Google and I could see that it was the end bits,
There's no end of different ones.
and it was like, depends which way we're going to go, because, you know, and a concrete bench is going to be so heavy.
Yeah.
They're not going to move it about, are
It's putting it there as well, isn't it?
they? Mix it on site.
I mean, there are loads and loads of different street furniture items out there, and I do think we really need to really look into it and look at what our options are for the money that we've got. even if you replace 1 or 2 a year and you get something that's going to last you for many years, it's far better to do that than rush in and do something quickly and then regret it.
Did we not have some suggestions with the funding from South Holland, and there were some lovely benches with planters and things like that? You know?
They've got to go in Clark's Park, though, will they?
Well, I don't know, are they? You know, are they just around the town, or, you know, if we could maybe get costings, so at least we know what sort of resources we could tap into, as in, if SHD said, well, that actually costs something per unit, and then we look at our budget, we've got something to compare against the concrete versions. It might help us, that if they're getting bulk of them and getting them cheap, we might be able to
Yeah, I mean,
make our money go further.
the one was placed opposite Laddie's, which is made of really good sturdy stuff, and it's quite, I don't want to say indestructible, because this will go out on YouTube and someone will have a go at it, but they're, you know, about £400 or £500, so they're not bad. But I'm reluctant to replace anything in Carter Park until things calm down.
Yeah, it's, I don't understand the destruction really myself. I know things wear out and timber's got a life cycle which we have to bear in mind.
Burnt and
Yeah, and I just think that if things are being destroyed in that manner and we don't replace them, we're actually saying, well,
I think
it's been destroyed, we can't.
Our lovely picnic area, obviously where we put the wildflower beds and things, is too screened off. It's leading to more antisocial behaviour gathering in that place.
Needs
It
opening
needs
up.
opening up.
Yeah. And there was a suggestion, wasn't there, about the, as you come from where the, through the tennis courts, where that walkway is opening all that up so you can see through, and then you can see right through them to the block that's on the agenda. So, for the sake of the agenda, going back to the item, are we then not agreeing?
I'd rather not, because like I say, I haven't looked at the ones obviously Rick's looked at. So can we defer that till we have some more information, please?
I think we should just not agree it and get it off the agenda until it comes back on.
Yeah.
Otherwise we're going to end up with a massive agenda again next time, aren't
Thank you.
Opposed, Stephen,
we?
yeah?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. To agree to recommend to full council the new locking up tender. Okay, can you have a look?
Yeah, just a question. Is this the locking up tender process or the information that's on there? 'Cause I was reading through it and it said like it's a 3-year thing and I was like, couldn't get around it.
It's the actual one that will go out asking people to put prices in.
For
The tender.
the following 3 years.
Yeah.
I've got one question on it, because it's got the dog run on it. We don't lock it.
We don't currently, but that's only a trial, so we need to include it in the tender, because if we then decide to lock it again, then we're going to have, the person who tenders will not have included for that. So if we include it in the tender, and they don't have to lock it initially.
But we
Then-
haven't had any problems, have we?
No, I know we haven't, but we haven't actually agreed to do it for permanently. We've only agreed to do it on a trial basis.
And the trial must be up by now, surely.
I don't know, we need to look at that and decide, make a decision. And the other point that isn't in there about the unlocking on certain days.
The current situation is the current contractor unlocks for free on a weekend.
You can't ask them that in the tender, can we?
So that's your decision, whether, the decision is whether you want to ask another member of staff who goes through there at a weekend to unlock. But then what do you do when he's on holiday?
I was going to just finish mine up, sorry, I'm jumping back. I tried to find the agreement that we had in place already, because obviously that's only been, because it says 3 years, I'm going, well, that's not been 3 years. Was the current contract only a year? Yeah, just because I couldn't find it, and I was like panicking, thinking, oh, where's that, you know? Okay.
So, in theory, we're gonna have to put in the opening at weekends as well, but not
Personally, I think you should include it in the tender document,
one.
say that it, you know, it is
Yeah.
part of the tender,
Yeah,
and then depending on who we get tendering, they may make an allowance for it, they may not, but at least if it's in there, then they know that that is a requirement that they're going to need to do.
I think we might as well, like I say, cover everything. And then, like I say, see who we get.
If I make that amendment, is everybody happy for that to go to full council because the tender will need to then be sent out?
This place.
Thank you. Agreed, Stephen?
I'm just,
We're still scanning.
it's just that when I was reading it, it wasn't, so this tender here was on about the locking up 365 days a year with no exceptions for holidays. Is it not locking and unlocking, or is the unlocking being done by staff?
The unlocking in the week is done by staff.
Yeah.
At the weekends, it's done by the current contractor, who doesn't charge us for that service at the moment.
And that's what we're going to put in.
Yeah.
Super, sorry, I've got my head completely around it now.
Yeah.
Thank you, yeah, no,
Both
I
of them
agree.
change entirely.
Are you
Thanks,
agreed with
Isabel.
that?
You okay, Steve?
Just got a bit lost, but thank you, yeah,
Yeah.
thanks. Yeah, happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
And you to agree the sale of the equipment, so have we got a list of the equipment? What's,
Yeah, it's on, it's the inventory that's on there, it's all.
oh, the inventory bit, was it?
Yeah.
Didn't see it. I know somebody was interested in certain bits, so did that pan out?
We've got people interested in everything.
Brilliant.
So
It's just to agree.
Propose it.
The only bit I would say is about the trailer. Until we're going to need a trailer of some sort, so until we have purchased a trailer or agreed on what sort of trailer we're actually going to need, hold fire on selling the trailer.
Was the trailer part of a, I'll have this if I... have
Yes,
that?
it was, but then that's been changed in that they
Okay.
would still like it at the point that we are prepared to sell it.
Mhm.
Is
Have
that,
we got prices of what they're offering, because I haven't seen any of that. Or what we're getting for this stuff.
Well, the issue is, the first issue is agreeing to sell it in the first place. Because we
We've done
don't,
that.
we just have, I think.
I was going to say, no, we agreed that.
we didn't agree it in, you agreed to sell equipment, but you didn't agree to sell particular items.
So we now got to itemise which items we
So
are
all
selling.
those items on that list in green, do you want me to read through them?
Yeah, if you want.
Massey Ferguson tractor, the Sykes uproar trailer, which Isabel just mentioned, 5-stage ransom gang mower, aqua cylinder mower 20-inch, ACO 28-inch sports cutter, ransom trailing gang mowers ×3. It's a 3 gang, I think, as opposed to Sissis True Spread powder lime maker.
Okay.
The Haterette mower, the Impact White Line marker, the Husqvarna vacuum and the sprayer. Where's the sprayer from? Did I call out the sprayer? No. Where's the sprayer from?
You put it in yellow.
Oh, sorry,
Yellow,
oh, the tractor
14.
sprayer, yeah, sorry, yellow. That one as well. Got to be in green.
Okay, so what sites have we put these on?
At the moment, they haven't gone on sites because they haven't been agreed, but a couple of people have been approached who would be interested.
I can understand that, but surely we might get more money if we put it out to a wider audience.
Yeah, but we need to agree.
So we agree what we're selling,
Mhm.
and I'd like us to, say where it's going to be sold.
We've had an offer on the tractor, which is exceedingly good offer.
Yeah, but
We've had two offers, haven't we, on the...
going out to 2 people, if we went out to 10, we might even get a better offer. We're meant to be making the most of this, surely. Well, I don't understand, we're not putting it out.
No, can I? Yeah, so I do agree, and I think the trailer thing's important because without a trailer getting
Yeah.
from site to site, I think we should agree that these items are to be sold, and then they'll go via whichever means. So they'll go to the highest bidder, as we would do in any kind of situation. So we can advertise them wherever we like, Rachel. We've got bids in, of course, already for consideration, but yeah, the highest, they will go to the highest. The highest price.
But we need to put it out to more people than just having a chat with a couple of people.
Yeah, that's what I was
Put it on
doing.
Marketplace.
Yeah, marketplace.
Yeah, just a few pictures and stuff.
Yeah.
But you do need to have a deadline on it. It can't go on forever.
No.
You need to say a week at the most, I would
Yeah.
say. And offers in by
Yeah.
7 days.
I'd rather give more people a chance.
Yeah. Is that trailer really 80 years old? So it wasn't new when we bought it then? Oh, because it said, oh, was that
No.
1975? It was purchased. Unless my maths are really bad. Okay, so we've done that then, we've agreed.
Okay,
Are
then
we-
So can
Yeah.
I propose to agree to sell items on the green list except for the trailer which
Yeah.
will be sold after we've bought a new one and put it on Marketplace for a period of 7 days.
Thank you.
Oppose that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. To agree next month's work schedule. So have we got a work schedule?
Mm-hmm. So we should have... Come on.
Okay.
So on the
Yeah,
last
I've seen this.
one, do you want me to run through each list briefly? Right, so on the last one, the red list was to remove the cement and ballast if not needed in the short term, but they're going to start Galahad now, probably on Monday, I would think. So that's for that. Park Road, every single tree and bush needs cutting back, all trees. A canopy of 3 metres, general tidy up. That's been started, as everybody knows, but that's just got to stay as an ongoing. Play equipment going in, that is Galahad. All sites remove signs saying CCTV or tape over. They were going up to finish Netherfield today. Deadly Nightshade and Hallgate, that's been done. New toilet, Park Road Cemetery is done. Paperwork, risk assessments are an ongoing monthly thing. Hallgate, that's on the amber list, prune trees. The running track and the football pitch, it's up to you. Battlefields to clean the rubbish pile, that is on the amber list. Nature reserve, tidy up. Bird boxes, the fallen cedar is on the yellow list. The green list, which is the potholes at Hallgate, which have been done, and the turf at Hallgate, and grass cutting, they have cut. Park Road, because the grass was getting long, they'd had a few complaints, so they cut that yesterday.
Okay, well, something I would like to add to the schedule, in the park. The grass is getting quite long in there and we've got a lot of leaves down.
Which one?
Cut.
Yeah, it's done yesterday.
It was done yesterday, was it? Brilliant. The weather we're due to get this weekend, we're going to end up with a lot more leaves and I don't want it killing the grass.
We talked a bit about snow, doesn't it?
So, red list, George.
the chipper?
Yes, it arrived today and
Brilliant.
it's working perfectly.
Fantastic. So they're long going
And we've
without
got
it, so-
spares as well. I've got Galahad on the red list.
Mhm. So finishing the chipping, obviously.
Mhm.
I really would like the roses sorted out down Hallgate. That bed needs clearing, doesn't it?
Can I just say we had another issue Sunday, as you all know, in Carter's Park, tucked in by the doctor's surgery.
Okay, I was going to bring that up later,
So
actually.
it's very overgrown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was something I did want to discuss.
I think things like your rose bed and the that area, they could go on to amber.
If you go, it's only, even if they
Carter's
just,
Park one.
Yeah.
the Hallgate rose bed, if they can just tidy it up for now, and then when they've got a couple of hours in the afternoon to do the grass seeding, but desperately needs tidying up at the moment, because it looks disgraceful.
So is that amber then,
Yeah.
Rachel?
Yeah.
I prefer it to be red, because I think it really does need doing, but it's when they've got time to do it, isn't it?
I think, yeah.
It
I
looks
would- I would
awful
leave
when you
it
drive
in.
around there.
For me, I would leave it in amber because you've not got many in the red list because you're going to, the red ones have got to be the urgent ones that you need to do immediately, which are your Galahad and things like that are crucial to get done. And then the amber are the ones that they're going to then move into immediately after they've finished the red list. So I would keep the red list quite short. So then you could put your Hallgate, the Park Road Cemetery within the amber list because that's an ongoing for
Yeah.
months. That's going to carry on.
I do agree, because if some of the red lists are weather dependent and they'll move straight onto amber stuff, the guys are really good at what they're doing, so I think they'll just flip between the two. And this time of year, you know, obviously it's darker in the mornings, it's dark early, you know, they've got restricted times, and with only let them just crack on. If we put two, you know, I don't.
I'm not putting too much on, it's just one.
No. Yeah, I know. It's one of the things that I think they'll get around to pretty quick.
Good.
Yeah. And we agree on that one?
Yeah, if you did,
Any more?
I would put the allotments measuring and clearing the park because we need to get the information about so if you can put that onto the green.
So that
So that's
there
good
was
prices
clear
for the
rubbish
mini,
pile.
Yeah, if the office gets the pricing ready, but we put the actual work
Measuring,
schedule
yeah,
and the measuring
the
onto
plot.
the green,
Yeah.
because that's not urgent, but it does need to be done.
Yeah.
So measuring as the clear rubbish pile is on the amber list. You
It
want
is,
moved
yeah,
onto
put it
the
down
green.
into the green for now. Because we need to get the pricing, so they're not going to be able to start it yet.
No. And the right equipment to make sure they're safe.
So it's kind of, who's the next one?
Discuss the information returned to the Crown Estate regarding Mortgage Bank. Okay, why are we discussing that? Just send it back to the Crown Estate.
There was a couple of things. There's a couple of things that didn't get answered. Our tenants aware of the accident reporting procedures on site, that didn't get answered.
Well, have we got a procedure for reporting accidents?
But they're the tenant, Rachel, it's their responsibility.
The accidents they have is football based, isn't it?
Yeah, so
So
it's
they
their-
do have, yeah,
So they need, that is,
they have accident books and that, yeah.
they haven't answered the questions,
Right.
that's why.
Well, they're doing it on the hall, that's why, not the actual field.
Yeah, but they rent the whole area.
I know, but they fill this out as the hall.
Has everybody read it?
Yeah, do you want me to
Yes.
give you my comment on that? First of all, the form itself is designated, of course, to us, because when you read it, it doesn't really make sense, because they're the subtenants and they're quite clearly put on here and they've got confused with the questions. Because obviously how they've answered it is, you know, it should be, if it's our responsibility, we should be probably doing the inspection, that's only my opinion. But, you know, Isabel's quite right, the whole area that they rent or they sublet, I think that should be a different report, you know, we should be...
This is just a form the Crown sent out for us.
I understand, yeah, but when you read it, it's not designed for it's not fit for purpose. And I would probably have gone back to them and said, well, you know, we've got the Crown land that we're looking after and whatever. This area is, you know, the form isn't, to me, the form doesn't make reading sense. Has an asbestos management report, annual inspection, confirmation being provided, not aware of any asbestos thing. You know, it's just the way that the forms, it doesn't make sense. So they filled it in as best they can, bless them. But obviously the obvious questions that they probably want are not being answered, are they?
So, what, we go back to the Crown and say, have you a different form?
Well, I think the thing is, if we had say to Carter Jonas, you know, you're asking us to fill in an annual inspection pro forma, but it's not actually, the questions are not fit for purpose, really. They are to them as a you know, it should be like directed as a subtenant, but the form just didn't make sense to me, from my point of view.
Yeah, very common. I don't think it's Carter Jonas and just doing a tick box exercise. Basically, they sent out the form. All they need is for it to be filled in, and they've done their duty, and that's it basically. I think maybe just send a form back with what is in it, but make the comment that it doesn't really fit purposes of what we're dealing with for that area.
You know, if we was doing it, we would be saying, we'd be asking for risk assessments and all sorts. And that didn't even mention anything, you know, to me it's, you know, like Isabel said, it's very tick box, it's not suitable, and I think there should really be, you know, has a copy of the tenant's insurance documentation been provided? Well, we're the tenant.
Well, we're the tenant of the Crown.
Yeah. So
are they asking us?
Yeah.
Or are they asking them?
So
this is the problem.
My concern is, because it's not fit for purpose, and we are so clear and transparent about what we're doing, this form is just so not right. It needs to be right. I'm sorry, that's my opinion.
That's right.
It could then, you know, it could impede with us having liability for something that we knew nothing about.
To review litter picking round. Did everybody have a look at his little map?
Yes, wow. He must clock up some steps. Bless him.
And he does vary it off a tangent if he's on a good...
Excuse me.
The one change that is made this week, he takes the borough back to SHDC land now. He doesn't take it home anymore.
Okay.
So that's what?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Why?
He loved his barrel.
It's an issue I will
You're
answer
okay.
it later, yeah.
Because that's going to have to.
Long term, yes. And
It
we've
will
already
continue.
spoken about,
Surely that'd be a better option now. Those steps, right?
That's what I'm thinking. I think we're probably.
Yeah, well, okay.
Yeah.
So his route.
I think he does a fabulous job. I mean, looking at how busy he is,
Mhm.
every time we see him, he's
Good.
brilliant. And
Mhm.
I think, you know, to plot his routes and stuff is fine-tuning his activity. Well done, Dan. Well, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And so we're quite happy to keep him on the round he's on now.
Yeah, he's
It's a
he's
review.
covering a good area.
Yeah, he is.
He's doing a grand job.
So, reviewed it and happy.
I mean, he did mention there that he's emptying some of the bins that are not actually our property, he's doing it anyhow.
Yeah.
But do we need to flag that up to the higher authorities and say that we are actually doing this on your behalf? Excuse me, would you like to actually do yours a little bit more frequently?
I did actually speak to him about this because I said to him, you know, I said to get my head around it, it seems odd that you'd walk through, say, the churchyard, empty that bin, miss that one out because it's a different authority, and then empty that bin, and then it's quite evident they are bins that are used more frequently, so they're full and spilling over, and then there's an empty bin a few yards there, and I said, hats off to you for trying to make a difference, and I think, you know, that really says something about
He's very
our staff,
conscientious.
yeah. And I think flagging up with SH, yes, they're dealing with lots of stuff, and fly tipping and stuff, but they should really look after their bins if they don't want to give them to us and let us deal with them.
And they do have their person come around every day as well, so why are they not being emptied?
Yeah,
That would be my question.
because they unlock the toilets, don't they? Unlock them up so they're here.
Yeah, if they hadn't got somebody out here, then I could understand it, but they have. So why are they not doing them?
I
That
think
would
if
be my
He
question.
used to, though. Has he slowed down a little bit
I
then?
don't know.
I think if emergencies happen and they get called away or you know they've got to retrieve someone that's blocking something, I can understand them going out in the truck and stuff. But you know if they're here, then surely the bin should be emptied. There isn't that many, is there?
Do you want me to speak to LCC Re-Stookley as well?
Yes, please. I mean, I know it's very not, and I do understand why he is continuing to do it. You know, we don't want areas to be messy, but it is not our responsibility.
I couldn't make out on the map if that actually went through or around the
Yeah, he has
outside.
stated that he
He's
just
not going
doesn't
through.
do it in,
You
but
can,
actually he should not be doing
No.
it.
yeah, you can understand from the public's point of view, and that's why we all take our roles on the council to do the best for them. And if they see a bin that's not empty, they assume that it says, and you know they're not clearly identifiable that South Holland have got
Yeah,
responsibility.
but have our signs come down in Stookley now?
I don't know.
I think
Because
so.
we've
Do
still
we
got
need to
parish
check?
council
Yeah, we
signs
need to
in there.
get that
Yeah.
sorted.
But irrespective of that, people see a full
Oh,
bin
yeah.
and they
Yeah, but
should-
when it says, oh, the parish council in there, it don't help, does
No,
it?
it don't.
Put it on the red list.
Okay, so we're happy with the review of the deputy now.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I'd like to say thank you to Dan. Good job. To agree the weekend and out of hours procedure, what's this for?
For who?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
A big smile on the face.
What it is if there is an issue, say, well, there was the issue of the broken fence, but we left it till Monday, but if there is an issue out of hours or weekends where something needs to be dealt with and we have no parks team at work at that precise moment, we just need some kind of procedure of what I can do and who I can ask to deal with it.
So it's going to be a very wide spectrum of things, isn't it?
It could be absolutely anything.
Yeah, basically.
It's a good point, to be honest, because in my role, you know, we get things go wrong right at the wrong time. So it's a good point to be on the agenda, to have a procedure in place.
Sure, if it's something quite serious within the park, it's a police matter. If it's something broken or a tree branch down, then it's something completely different, isn't
That's what I meant.
it? Yeah.
So if, sorry,
You've got two choices. You either got to agree with your staff members that they take it in turns to be on call at a weekend, in case there's an issue, and then Joan can contact if if, say, there was a tree branch down that it was dangerous or whatever and it needed to be cleared, or you've just got to give John the authority to contact whoever is going to be able to deal with that issue, and if one can't deal with it, then the next person deals with it.
I think I would like us to just double check with HR, the chair there, just to see what their contractual obligations are signed up to see if we can use an on-call service. It would be very useful, and I think with the teamwork, I think it would be okay, but we want to run it past HR to make sure first, because it could be that they agree that, say they do an hour, they take it back in toil or something, but I'd rather have HR support on that before we implement anything, if that's okay.
Okay.
Can I propose that we get some input and then potentially put it as an agenda item on full council?
Yeah, so it gets agreed.
So that we can get it agreed quickly.
Yeah, I'll support that.
Second.
Yeah. Cool, we're nearly there, aren't we?
We are. Items for discussion and agenda item requests. I would like to, obviously with the emails we had out this week, the area you touched on with the broken fence. I wonder if anybody's available, we look at some of our less desirable spots within the park and get it sorted, and just come up with a plan and remove that area, or lower it, or do something.
Can I make a suggestion that we actually do each area, so we choose an area for each month and say, right, okay, well, this next month we all meet and we look at the park, the next month we look at the cemetery, the next month we look at Hallgate, the next month. So we're actually doing a bit of a rota, and we're actually working out, I mean, we all are out there and seeing different things, but if we're all together, we can have a discussion whilst we're looking at the areas, rather than having to do it now and then not always knowing what we're talking about.
I think this area in question, obviously at the beginning of Carter's Park, is something we need to address sooner than later, because it's an excellent hiding area.
Yeah, I think with the email trail that I saw, we all agreed that
Yeah.
let's get on and do it, and then we can instruct the parks team to get on with it. It's on their work scheduling list anyway, so
Yeah, get it clear.
it doesn't need to be
So
an
if
agenda
we-
item. You just
If we arrange a time that we can meet down there
Mm.
and have a discussion about how we would like it to look,
Yeah,
and then
crack on.
that instruction can then be passed on
Yeah.
to the parks.
So
If
you let us
can't
know.
be, just get it cleared, I think.
Yeah,
Get it.
I think they can start on it and get
Yeah.
clear in it, and then if you let us know when your next available day off is, we'll meet that day and have a look.
Yeah, thank you.
Is that a plan? You can just email it when you are,
Yeah,
and we'll
so
fit
I'm
in.
off Wednesday and Thursday next week,
Yeah, I can't do Thursday.
so.
I think my problem's done.
Okay, has anybody else got anything for agenda items?
I would say the duck food machine, but I'm going to get on cracking on with that
Yeah,
anyway.
get
So
your photos, please.
yeah, I'll get on with that.
But please let them come into the clerk beforehand,
Yeah.
if you think of anything. This is going to be really close to Christmas, isn't it?
Can't. So the 21st is planning. 22nd.
I'm on my holidays then. I close my office on the 20th. No, I don't really.
What day did you just say, 20?
22nd. Wednesday, 22nd.
It seems odd, doesn't it, thinking about some meeting before Christmas.
Or Monday the 20th.
The 20th would be better for me, while roughly looking at this.
It's full council 13.
Yeah.
Yeah. Twenty's good for me.
Sorry, I'll look at it. You're not.
Yeah.
20th?
At 6, is that okay?
Yeah. I'm off that day.
Do you want to do it in the day then? Because everybody can meet in the daytime.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm flexible.
Yeah.
What time?
1?
Warm.
Is that okay? Yeah?
I should be back from lunch by then.
Bring it with you. You bring us cake.
Don't normally have a lunch break. Okay, let the dogs out and back again. Is that agreed then, Tanya? 1 o'clock.
Yep.
Super. You're going to close the meeting?
Yeah. Well, done that. Thank you all very much.